Which is the box and whisker plot for the data presented in the graph? It lists the top 10 parent internet companies. The vertical axis has their audience in millions, and the horizontal axis just labels the 10 companies A through J. So there are 10 of them. And the main thing to notice here is that the important information in this graph is given to you at the top of the bars. In fact, they've uh, helped you avoid having to go back to the vertical axis and actually read off those numbers. They've put them there for you. So essentially the hard work has been done, because reading that graph without those numbers at the top would probably have been the hardest part of the entire problem. So all we need to do is pull those numbers off, and because we're doing a box and whisker plot, we need to have them in order. So I'll write them down in order from smallest to largest, and I'll just put them here. The smallest of those 10 numbers is 15. The next one is 23. Then there's a 36 and a 37. Then it jumps all the way to 70, then to 81 and 82, then jumps to 100, 104, and finally 107. So I've taken those 10 numbers, pulled them off the graph, and put them in order. So the thing to notice here is, at this point, you can forget the graph itself. You're simply looking at those 10 numbers. Now for a box and whisker plot, we need to make sure we understand what we're doing. We need a 5-number summary, because the box and whisker plot is simply the 5-number summary written in a visual format. And we also need to remember what a box and whisker plot looks like in general. The box consists of the median in the middle, with the first quartile value on the left, the third quartile value on the right, and then the whiskers go out to wherever the minimum is on the left and wherever the maximum is on the right. So a box and whisker plot in general looks like that. And the reason I'm mentioning this so early on is you can see already that this choice B doesn't have any whiskers. So we've eliminated choice B without even doing any quantitative work. Just knowing what a box and whisker plot looks like tells you immediately it can't be B. Now let's move this up where you can actually see all the choices. I realize that the last two choices are partially cut off. So let's look at this where we can see the actual choices better. Okay. So we're looking between A, C, and D. We've already knocked out B because it doesn't have any whiskers. It can't be a box and whisker plot. So I would say let's start off with the median. We need the median to do a box and whisker plot. Well, there are 10 numbers, so that means that there's no single number in the middle. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the left and 5 on the right. And remember, we average the 2 in the middle when there's no single number in the middle. So if you add up 70 and 81, you get 151, and 151 divided by 2 comes out to be 75.5. So the average of 70 and 81 is 75.5. Well, that immediately knocks out A, which has a median of 65.5, and D, which has a median of 36. So actually, we're done. It has to be choice C. But what I would say about this is you have to keep going and building your box and whisker plot until you have narrowed your choices down to 1. So I put the median here as 75.5. Now if I'd still had more than one choice, I needed to go ahead and I need to say, well, let's look at the minimum, maximum. Let's look at the first quartile value and the third quartile value. So you keep going until you get a difference. So had you had more than one choice left in after finding the median, you just have to keep going. Find Q1, find Q3, and eventually you would narrow it down to one choice. A college placement office did a study of starting salaries for graduates in various majors. The following box and whisker plot describes the starting salaries for business, education, engineering, and liberal arts. And the question is simple. Which major in general receives the worst salary? So this is simply a question of visually scanning, and this is the power of the box and whisker plots. It makes it possible to do a quick visual scan and answer questions like this. You can see that not only is the median for education lower than the median for engineering, liberal arts, and business, but actually most of the data is concentrated at a lower level than the others. In other words, between Q1 and Q3, education falls well below any of the others. So it's just a visual scan. You can easily see from this data that education in general receives the worst salary offers. Now, I'm not saying that it's absolutely true for every case, because as you can see, the max is actually 49.8, which is bigger than the max of every other one of them. So we're not saying that every single salary offer in education is worse than every single offer in engineering, liberal arts, and business. We're just saying that in general, that's true. And that's the power of the box and whisker plots, to make that kind of evaluation easy to do visually.